talking or I'm talking. So Dylan will kind of go for Dylan. I'll let you take it away. Dylan will rock first, and then
Yeah.
he'll pass it over to
Yeah,
me.
I'm not gonna be too long. Apologies, guys. This is I talk for a living, but this is the first webinar I've done, and I'm like extremely sick right now. So my ears, they're pressurized and all that stuff. So bear with me a little bit here, but I wanted to get this out tonight so we don't have to postpone, especially past you know Thanksgiving. So how many of you? I'm gonna open up the chat here. How many of you are in Florida? Or just tell me the city you're in or the state. Oh, cool, Elizabeth, Tampa. Me too. Okay, so everybody's basically Tampa. Cool. Making sure everything's still good on YouTube. All right, so um, gotcha. Yeah. All right. So I'm talking a little bit about Tampa and Florida, like this central West Central Florida, and this could apply to northern and southern Florida as well. Probably Georgia's not too different, but some of the things that I'll share with you, especially the calculator that I use and I built, will definitely be helpful for you underwriting properties and making sure that I used to underwrite with a very basic calculator, and it was great for a while, but this has allowed us to be a lot more precise with our numbers, and I can push back with investors with these numbers, and it really shows how good of a deal some of these deals are. And sometimes I don't even share deals because I'm like, you know what, I'm not convinced that it's a great deal. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about was basically that. And give me 1 second here, pulling this up. If you're looking at investing in Tampa, which here's the thing. Half of you, or probably most of you, are already in Florida or Tampa specifically, so this won't really apply to you that much. But the there's benefits to investing in Florida, which you already know that because you're here. But I'm just going to say this for the audience on YouTube, that we have so many things already set up in Tampa and in Georgia as well, because Georgia is the Atlanta is the headquarters, right, for Padsplit. So it's the most established market, I believe, with the most units. But in Tampa, we already have over 2,000 units, I think, actively managed and being rented just in the Tampa metro. So there's a lot of great things about Tampa. We have a mature market with operators here, like agents. You have property managers. Probably some of you already know Fred, or if you're, how new are you guys to Padsplit right now? Can you type in the chat? Are you brand new, or do you have a deal, or have you learned about it? Okay, so you're very familiar with it. So we'll get to the calculator. Hopefully that'll be helpful to you. And if you already have something better, that's fine. Just start burning. Okay, cool. So the benefit to Tampa, and there's other markets. So I'm not, I don't know all the markets intimately for Padsplit. I know there's like 30 plus markets. There's a lot of good stuff there. But with Tampa, I've done a video on YouTube that has been very helpful for people with Fred Vielhauer, the guy who manages almost half, I think, of the units here just in Tampa Bay. And we have another video coming out, and I'll probably drop it in about a week or two. But I think it's very helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing, and you're not in a fresh market where, mistakes have to be learned, right, and then corrected over time. So I think for a lot of reasons, Tampa is an appreciating market. It's a long-term growth market, but also it's hard to get cash flow except with Padsplit. So that's what Padsplit opens the door for rentals in Florida. So I want to share with you guys some numbers that I ran here on a real deal that I found about 2 months ago. So let me know if you can see this. Okay. This is a long-term rental. Can you guys see that? The calculator here? I think you can. I have a few
Yes.
monitors here, so I'm really just kind of like scrolling around, make sure everything looks good. And let me go to the chat. Okay. Can I zoom in a bit? Yes, I think I can. Hopefully that's helpful. Perfect. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit more. Here's here is the long term rental, right? So it was a $333,000 property. So we ended up getting it down to. It needed a little bit of work. Mostly it was turnkey. It's in Tampa, around Seminole Heights. I forget the exact sub market there, but it was around that area. These were the numbers, and I don't remember the exact interest rate. I think my guy was in like the high sixes with his rate, but I just put 7 there. It's not going to change too much. And then I just left the points at 0. There's no HELOC. This was a hedge fund I'm working with, so it's not no homestead, of course. With Padsplit, there's never a homestead exemption. Property taxes, we have them estimated automatically at 1.7% of the purchase price. You can update that right here, and you can also override insurance, but I have it estimated about 1% of the purchase price because that's kind of what things have been averaging out to. So all that stuff this is as a long-term rental, a typical 8% management fee. You're not paying any of these expenses because the tenant pays them all. This is probably the best deal you'll be able to find for a long-term rental here in Tampa. If you look at, sorry, I got a lot of things going on here. I'll make sure audio is okay on YouTube. So if you look at, things keep moving around on me. If you look at the rents here, if we get about $2,500 a month, and again, this is a non-HOA property, so a lot of times you'll find these deals close to that, but it'll be like an HOA fee of $300 a month or something. We have pretty conservative numbers here. 5% vacancy is turnkey, so there's a few things you need to do in the attic with this property. Blah blah blah. We have about, including the reserves, so that's vacancy, capex, and maintenance. We have about negative almost $500 a month. And if you remove the reserves and you're just looking at numbers, like the straight numbers, it's probably negative $211 a month. 3 or 4 years ago, we could have gotten this property. We could have cash flowed probably. We were finding deals that could cash flow $100 a month, and that was like pretty average. About 4. It was like 2021, and then 2022 things started to change with Hurricane Ian, and insurance went up, and of course interest rates went up as well. Now, if we take a look at this same property, but through the eyes of Padsplit, which was what we were going to do, it was an extra $15,000 about for the rehab, and then it was about a Padsplit. So here's the furnishing costs, right? If you talk to Fred or somebody who manages your property, you have to set up these with furnishing. And so apologies if you guys already know this, but I am going to say it just for people who may be brand new. The average cost per room for him for a pretty good room is about $1,800 per room. So we were getting about 8 rooms at this property. So that's 14,400 rolls right up to 15,000. And then we have all these things. So if you look at this checklist here of what you're paying for as the landlord, you're paying for electric, water, sewer, trash, all that stuff. This is about, maybe it's a little bit low, but you could bump it up just a little bit probably for some of these for electric and water for 8 rooms. But this is about right for Tampa. So we're going to go to the Padsplit management side. We're going to go to 8 rooms, and we're going to go to this area was, I think, 190. It was 190 per week on average, and this had a occupancy. The zip code had an occupancy average of I think it was about 80. It was like 90%, but I'm gonna put 88 because it might have been a little bit lower. And then we have the average move outs per. So this is assuming that everybody stays at least 1 year at a time. So we'll bump it up to 12. And we'll keep a high maintenance reserve, a high capex reserve, and of course we have that's essentially vacancy, right? So we have all this put in place, and this property is cash flowing, positively $500 a month. It's a stark difference. It's $1,000 spread. So this is how we're looking at these properties now to make them cash flow in Tampa. And if you want this calculator, you can go to dylancook.com/calculators / and you'll be able to see it there. But these Tampa properties here in Tampa, the Padsplit properties shine between 250 to like 400K. We have people who have done very high, like high level renovations on distressed properties, and that's where you can kind of do your partial BRRRR. So like buy, rehab, rent, repeat. But for the most part, there's a lot of people who are trying to get into Padsplit with little down. Sorry, I should silence this. And this is the way to do it. Now, Padsplit is going to cash flow far better than any long-term rental here in Tampa with the right property, but it's going to require more capital, and Fernando will talk about this a little bit more about the lending requirements. But after you close on a property, even if it's mostly turnkey and zero repairs are done, you still need somewhere around 20K on average to furnish a property and get it operational. Any questions on that so far? Anything I should expand on or clarify?
I think you're good.
Cool,
Keep
cool,
it
cool.
up.
So yeah, that's yeah. 250 to 400K is kind of like the sweet spot. Now, there's a lot of things you need to do to make the property cash flow, right? You can't just find any property. There's a lot of nuances out there, and so that's one of the things. Like, depending on if you're an agent or you're a buyer or you're a landlord already, we can we look at properties. We walk for the layout after we do all of our due diligence virtually, and then once everything kind of aligns up, we can decide if this makes sense as a purchase or as a conversion from a property you already own, or any one of those things. But yeah, it's generally the sweet spot. We have had, I think one of the best deals I think I've ever done was like $540,000 in South Tampa, but the happiest client. A year later, he's still super. It's his best property, but generally, if you want cash flow, we are looking at properties that cash flow generally between $500 and $1,000 a month. The one in South Tampa was 10 bedrooms, and we've done ones that are 14 bedrooms too, but that's like you're kind of bordering what's possible. Like what it gets a little bit more risky, right? In some ways, so you have to be careful doing too many rooms. It has to be the location has to matter even more. It has to be split up almost as like a duplex into different. There's a little bit more, I think, manual underwriting that goes through for those properties, but generally 8 bedrooms is pretty nice. So any questions about that? If not, I can turn it over to Fernando here pretty soon, but I just wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to turn off my screen share. One other thing too, when it comes to this calculator, so one of the things that helps the most when talking with investors is, you can show the cash flow, you can show your total cash invested. So that includes all the money you have down and, DSCR. Although, I have to check with Fernando. I feel like different lenders calculate DSCR in different ways, so you have to make sure that's accurate for them. But
Well, what do you have it calculated as?
it's just NOI. Yeah, so this
Rents
is factoring
divided
in.
by.
It's factoring in basically everything. I think it's factoring in like the NOI divided by debt service, but the NOI includes the reserves,
Oh,
right?
gotcha.
So it includes basically all your expenses, your taxes, and all your variable expenses over here. It includes the electric, water, so all that stuff, and it's still hitting a 1.29.
Nice. So I think this is good from an investor's lens, but from a financing side, luckily ours is
Right, right.
but at least
Right.
for an investor, for you to know, hey, as an investment, this is good, then that's better. It's
Yeah,
better
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
for sure. The IRR is what I really like because this is where you can compare to like commercial deals. You can compare more apples to when there's an apple and an orange, you can kind of change that apple into an orange and it's oranges to oranges, and you can really see what's performing better. So anyway, that's one of the great things, and this is over a 10-year time horizon, which you can go to the master summary and you can change all that right here. We would expect that zip code to appreciate 4% annually based on 20-year historicals, NOI growth of 2.5, all that stuff. So you can change that and take a look at what that is and compare different deals, all that stuff. So, all right. Thank you
Cool.
guys. last question. I think the one 14 bedroom was zoned as a, this was like 3 years ago. So I think it was split up as a duplex, but it wasn't a legal one. And it was in like Palmachia area. So I think it was just residential, but it was like half acre. So nobody really cared. It's a little bit more private. Yep. All right. Fernando, I think it's all yours.
All right, you're passing it over.
I am. It's
Cool,
all
cool,
you, man.
cool. So, what's up, everybody? My name is Fernando. Let me share my screen, and then we can hop into it on my side as well. So, I'll be talking financing. We've closed for co-living investors probably over 200 in the last 2 years, and so a lot to share. Candidly, disclaimer, and I'll share it with you guys here. We've had to switch lenders 8 times for our co-living products. Just like if you've been in the game for the last 5 years, because I've owned my Padsplit for 5 years now, it's we've changed insurance probably 5 times. So it's just one of those things when you're, in this new world, you for us, we're just constantly problem solving, which is good and bad. Good because it keeps me in business. Bad because it feels like every few months I'm switching to a different lender and different offerings and all that stuff. So what I'm going to share with you today is pretty much solid rules of thumbs in financing. Um, let's see. That doesn't matter what season of like what lender is in, we have access to all this stuff, but the terms do change. Sorry, wrong one. All right, this is it. So making Tampa rentals work again with Padsplit. My name is Fernando. I thought it was something I want to share something that was really cool. This past week, I got to speak on the same stage as Pace Morby and Atticus. Atticus, for you guys don't know, is the CEO of Padsplit. And 2 days before, I had this idea, like, wouldn't it be really cool if I reached out to the CEO of Padsplit since he's going to be there? Somehow, if I got his phone number and I asked him to introduce me on stage. My wife didn't even know what I was doing. She just heard me on a phone call with Atticus, and she was like, "Wow, like you're extremely courageous." And at the time, I was just like, "I just got to do it." And yes, of course, all the fears and insecurities and all that stuff can go in my head of like, what if he says no, and da 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 da, all that stuff. But at the time, I've been working so much on myself to believe that I'm worthy, that I'm enough to be able to have that conversation with him. So much so that after my presentation and after our speeches and his as well, because I had his phone number, so I ended up getting his phone number through some clients, and he was cool with it. I reached out. He was super cool. He spent like a few minutes presenting me, which is great. Um, Afterwards, I texted him and I said, "Hey, do you want to have dinner?" And I don't know for some of you guys if that's like a big deal or not, but like for me, I used to have like massive status alignment issues where like, can I even reach out to this person? Do they want to hang out with me? What am I going to talk about for a whole hour, 2 hours that we have dinner? Like, am I that interesting? Do they even want to hear what I have to say? Like, all those limiting beliefs exist up here. And so as I was about to send the text message, of course, I wanted to stop because of those limiting thoughts. But I said, what do I have to lose? Sent him the text message because at that time I was like, I think I am worthy to sit at a dinner table with just him. And he said yes. That was the coolest part. That he said yes. It was just me, him, with the CEO of PadSplit, and my wife, Amy. And we just sat for like 2 hours having dinner, hanging out, talking about his story, my story. Like it was so cool. So all that to say as well, like the CEO of PadSplit, such a cool guy, really, really great story. And he's truly building PadSplit from a position of abundance, not out of like a position of I'm doing this to make money. And you could see the authenticity from just the whole conversation. It was great. All right, let's go. So what we're going to cover, co-living pad split market stuff, pretty much what's just the overall climate of pad split and its growth trajectory and where things are landing. Then we're going to get into the why co-living pad split financing is challenging, especially if you're new, And Leslie, I think this is a great opportunity for you to bring up maybe where the discrepancy was with Kia or with David that you're talking about. We're going to talk about financing products for converted and non-converted co-living product or properties and the differences. And then what my suggestion is, especially if you're going to buy and refi, how you're going to handle that. We have creative income documentation beyond DSCR. I'm going to be comparing conventional, when to use conventional or hard money or DSCR. We'll be going through that. And then I might have an example. I have a few example scenarios that we'll go through. So here's my disclaimer. In the last 2 years, we've switched co-living lenders 7 times, and this number is actually 8 as of last month, unfortunately. So what I'm sharing today is true as of today, and I'll continue to provide updates, during these webinars or on Facebook, Instagram, just always sharing the updates of where we're at. So let's rock and roll. Let's see. How housing have changed. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but back in the day, so this is a chart back in the day of 1960, a lot of couples that lived together, single, no kids, 13%. Then you got families that made up a majority, and all these others in the 8%, which is unmarried partners, roommates, adult relatives. And now this has grown. So when people are asking you, like, is Padsplit saturated? I think about this, that single no kids has grown, as well as households with just households in general with different types of family groups have grown as well. That's doubled from 8% to 16%. Single no kids has more than doubled. Um, and I see this just within my own family. I'm one of very few friends that has kids, and I'm 33, turning 34. My brother and his wife decided they don't want kids. So it's so interesting that, just the times, the ebb and flow of the boomer age versus now and how things are changing. Um, my background, 7 years ago, I ventured out into the entrepreneurial world because I decided, like, I was in so much pain. I don't know if you guys have felt this, where like you just feel capped by your income, or you feel capped by your potential, you feel capped just by your freedom of time. And so I went to my manager and I said, "Hey, like, I don't think this is for me." And so I left, right? I quit twice. I quit 2 different jobs at different times of my 20s because I thought I quit to go travel for a year. Then I came back and worked. Then I was like, nah, this is probably not for me. So I quit again to become an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, what they don't tell you is that when you become an entrepreneur, what that means is you just have to get punched in the face so many times, figuratively, and you try to solve problems and try to make money and figure out ways to become valuable to the marketplace, but nobody really taught me how. So in the last 7 years, I've probably built 6 or 7 companies, and the majority of them have not done well. But I learned, I developed skills in that whole process. In that time, I met my first private money partner, which was my wife. And then I married her. She was not only my private money partner who gave me money, but then I married her. And then not only did I marry her, we bought a pad split. It was the first one. So I was like, "Hey, look, I got this crazy idea. We're gonna go and buy a pad split. It's out of state. We're not gonna visit the property. We're just gonna put a bunch of people in that house." There's like 8-2 at the time, so converted from a 4-2 to an 8-2, and we're gonna make a ton of money. We're gonna retire, be financially independent, and we'll be sipping margaritas in no time. And then it took us 9 months to get our first pad split and finally close. It took us 3 months to convert it. When we launched, the bottom floor flooded. So I don't know if this resonates with anybody, where like you have this perfect vision of how this is all going to play out, and then you do it, and everything just like falls, and you're like, no, no. But it's okay. We had to tell her parents and my parents that that it was not working out. That it was a struggle in that first few months. And my parents and her parents were like, "We told you this is a crazy idea." But that year, we actually ended up closing out the year with a positive $20,000 in cash flow. So, yes, some of those initial hurdles and barriers and struggles, like, absolutely true. Same thing with my businesses when I was starting these different businesses, and everybody was like, "Fernando, why are you starting all these different businesses? Like, you just get so much judgment for trying to do things a different way." And you do that long enough, eventually people are like, wow, you did such a great job. I should have invested in Padsplit 5 years ago when it was there because we, blah, 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 all these other things. And it doesn't look smart sometimes when you're in the struggle and the suffering. But over time, you, yeah, people start saying, yeah, that's pretty cool. This is one of our properties, second property, third property, fourth property. So we have 34 doors. And all of my properties I did not buy with my own money or my own income. I bought with other people's money. I bought with partners. And it was because I was unemployed and none of my businesses were working out. But this one was working out. So in that time, I got my wife, who was my first private money partner, got her to buy a property with me. And then we had two kids with a third one on the way. Dylan, I don't know if I told you, man, we're expecting a third one. And oh, sweet. Yeah, congrats, man. 10 days ago? Oh, man. You're fresh. Sheesh. And you're getting, all right, yeah, you're sick and you're not getting a ton of rest.
It's okay.
All right.
Well, it's a
Hopefully,
brutal combination, right when the baby comes, but
yes.
it's all good.
It makes you stronger. It builds
Yeah.
character. So we had little ones. And like I said, in the last 2 years alone, we've crossed over 200 loans closed for co-living investors. And that's not to say that I built this business in 2 years, because there's so much of my story from 5 years before that of the struggling entrepreneur. So I say that because I'm not self-made. I struggled so much. I had so many failures and all that stuff. And so this is natural for you guys in your journey, especially if you're just starting. As you hit these failure blocks, those are just going to become stories and skills that you're going to stack on, and that eventually becomes experience. Um, I like sharing this because what have I had to overcome in order to get to 34 doors on Padsplit? In order to raise, I mean, now I've raised over $1 million for different projects. In order to show up on webinars and speak on stages, in order to have dinner with the CEO. What is everything that I've had to overcome? And I share this because if you want financial independence, or if you want to make more income, or you want to be in certain rooms, you want to speak on whatever overcoming courage means to you, all of these fears I had to go through: fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of humiliation, fear of rejection, so much self-doubt, negative self-talk, fear of judgment, fear of success. This one time, we had a bunch of loans close in a month, and I was like, well, what if I can't sustain it? What if I share my success? This is the crazy part. What if I share my success and then I fall? That isn't that crazy? It's like I'm already like becoming, my pat splits were successfully performing, and I was afraid to share that because, like, what if next month I'm not cash flow positive, and now I got to share that, right? There's like fear of humiliation, fear of rejection, fear of failure, all that comes in. There's the fear of success, which is like, well, what if I am successful, and all these other negative thoughts. So I like reminding myself this is everything that I continuously would have to go through if I want to go and live the life and be the person I want to be. Let's get into the pop quiz. Now we get into the financing. I was trying to get through that as quickly as possible. Thanks for hanging in there, because now we're at the pop quiz. So this is where you guys engage. Number one, what makes co-living financing challenging? Is it A, appraisers often struggle with 6 to 10 plus bedrooms? Is it B, properties with no living room are hard to comp? Is it C, lenders see rent by the room as a boarding house? D, DSCR lenders don't count all the co-living income? E, the valuation, meaning the value of the home on an appraisal, is based on sales comps, not NOI cap rate. Meaning even though you make significantly more money in that property, does not mean that the value of the home is going to go up like it would maybe in a commercial property. What do you guys think? Is this A, B, C, D, E, or F? Oh, Carson, Elizabeth, you guys all looked at my at the answers to the test earlier, I think. Just kidding. You guys got it. All right, let's go to the next one. Pop quiz number two. How do you scale a co-living portfolio? So I like to think about all the different ways that the investors I've worked with are currently building their portfolio, so by they're not gated by things, okay? The first one, A, is buy regular properties and convert, which is what this is what I did for our first two properties. We just bought a regular house, 15% down, 10% down. Some people, if you're going to live in it, you can buy 3.5 or 5% down. B, you want to buy beat up properties, rehab them, convert them, refinance. That I did that for my third and fourth properties. We bought them beat up, we rehabbed them, refinanced them. One of those refinanced as it was a co-living property. The other one we waited and refinanced it vacant, and then we converted it. Um, Buying already converted co-living properties. Since I bought many years ago, a lot of people back then are now recapturing their equity by selling. And so in this market right now, I know Dylan and we closed a property that last year. I think that was already cash, it was already occupied, and we helped close that. So there's people selling co-living properties. That doesn't mean that you're going to be making more money from it, but you can have less risk at times. If the property is already performing, you can have a history of data, but that doesn't mean you won't make the cash on cash return. You'd have to still see if you're going to make the money you want to make. D, find another host co-living property and squat in it. Strategy right here. Not saying it's there, but I mean some people are really, really ambitious and they gotta do what they gotta do. E, sign a lease and do co-living arbitrage. That one I thought was pretty cool. One of my friends actually does that. She's an immigrant from Colombia, and she didn't let that stop her, right? She didn't necessarily have all the money or the paperwork to get started, but she did have the drive. And she's the first person I knew. She has like 5 or 6 co-living arbitrage properties. It's the coolest thing. She signs 5-year leases. Anyways, I'm not saying that we should do it. If you have the means to buy, then just do the buy. But the point is to not let yourself get stopped from not having money, if that's the case. So, which of these is would you not use? I could say that. Which of these is right? Which of these is not right? I'll just let one person answer on this. So yeah, you can do A, B, you can do C, you could do E. How do you scale a co-living portfolio? The only one probably, yeah, you probably don't do D. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, you don't do D. So we're good there. The last one. This is the last one that's critical. With most appraisers, what is the legal definition of a bedroom that they abide by? You have A, does it need to have one mode of egress, like a door? B needs to have two modes of egress. Sorry, let me go back. No, we gotta go back. Uh, Here we go. So, with most appraisers, what is the legal definition of a bedroom that the appraisers can go by? Needs to have one mode of egress, like a door. Needs to have two modes of egress, a door and a window, and a bathroom. C needs to have two modes of egress, a door, a window, and a built-in closet. Needs to have a bed in it, or all of the above. Which one do you think helps us as co-living investors? Nice. Yeah. Hey, Vonda. Cool. You got it. So it is C. We want to have a window, a door, and the window has to be facing the outside. We had somebody build a property where they built the window on the inside of the house. It was the funniest thing because they told their contractor, "Hey, every room needs a window." And the contractor put the window facing the hallway, not the outside of the house. So I have to say that I thought that was hilarious. And he sent me pictures of it too. He was like, "Are you serious?" The funniest thing. Okay. Yes, it is C. Okay. And the reason why that helps us right now in the marketplace, when you're doing a sales comparison report on an appraisal, 8 bedroom, 10 bedroom homes, they don't really exist. And so if an appraiser goes out and sees your house and they do call it an 8 bedroom house, for example, they're not going to find other 8 bedroom homes nearby for the square footage that you're in, right? There might be another 8 bedroom house, but it might be 3, 4, 5,000 square feet versus like mine was really only like, I don't know, 2,000 square feet. And so it's more of like a 4 bedroom. So by me not having built-in closets, I was able to still get a 4 bedroom appraisal value. It was still within comps. And then those other 4 rooms could be bonus room, living room still, dining room, studio room, yoga room, office room, sunroom. We have all these different types of room varieties that we've seen now. So, yeah, the yoga room was a good one. If you guys ever, you're like, no, 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 that's not a bedroom, it's a yoga room. It goes really well. Okay, let's talk about where conventional primary financing fits and falls short. Because I still think there's value here. I like sharing it because if you have access to it, I would do it. You can buy a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex for 3.5% down, 5% down. I don't personally have access to that loan product. But like if you're in Tampa and you live nearby, I mean, it just depends on the person, right? Some people are like, yeah, but I have kids now or I'm married. I don't want to do that. Like whatever the scenario is. But ultimately, it's just knowing that it exists. You can buy 3.5, 5% down, duplex, triplex, fourplex. You can live in one of those units and then you could pad split the other three and make buku dollars. Like I think you could crush it, absolutely crush. And yeah, I think that that'd be such a cool spot. So we talked about that FHA, VA, conventional loans allow owner occupants to start living, 3 to 5% down, lowest rates, ability to house hack, great for your first or second co-living property, hands down. And then once your debt to income ratio caps, you can get into the DSCR space and the hard money space. But I really want to share this. I know one person that converted their VA loan 0% down. They bought a fourplex and then they're pad splitting that. I think it's such a cool strategy. Let's go. When it breaks down, so it doesn't scale, right? Because you're going to be capped at 10 finance properties on personal credit, assuming that your debt to income ratio is strong enough, your income is strong enough to even support that much debt on your personal credit. Because, yeah, after two, like for my wife, we were able to use a 15% down and then a 10% down loan, and then her debt to income ratio got capped. The problem there is, let's say, well, can I show the income every year so that my debt to income ratio changes? Two problems with that. The one is when you go to your tax returns, how much profit are you showing? Because they're going to look at your tax returns. Number two, they're not a fan of pad split leases in the conventional world, right? So you can't like just show them a pad split lease. They're gonna be like, we don't look at this lease. We don't validate that lease. And the income, yeah, so you can see there's gonna be like variable income, and you're gonna have to write letters of explanation and stuff. So some of the conventional world hasn't caught up to co-living. I mean, the unconventional world is still trying to catch up as well. But who knows when exactly the conventional world is going to catch up or not? We'll see. The other piece I'm not a fan of is as you grow and scale, usually if you're using outside capital, the debt reports to personal credit, and you cannot close in an LLC if you're using a conventional loan or FHA or any of those things. So if you're partnering with people, you want to protect your liability and you want to get outside money, you want to have partners and you want all that stuff, it gets harder to do in the conventional space. That's where people start to go into DSCR or hard money loans. So you start to collaborate with others. Conventional is a starter lane, DSCR is a freeway. DSCR or alternative methods. I actually share there's a it's called a full doc. I'll share it right now. There's a full doc loan that you can close in an LLC, meaning we can use your W-2 income and we can close in an LLC. It's pretty cool. Or we can use bank statements, or we can use 1099. I'll share that right now. So let's just say it's a non-converted pad split or co-living property, so just a regular home, or let's just say it's vacant. Even if it's a vacant co-living property, we probably still do it. 20% down is standard, 80 LTV, 80% rate and term refi, 75% for cash out refis. This is if it's non-converted pad split co-living property. So what happens if it is converted? And people ask me, well, Fernando, should I convert the property before or not? I'm just turning on my AC. Um, should I convert the property? if I buy it, should I refinance it converted or not? There's risk. So depending on what stage I'm in as a broker, meaning do I have access to the lender that can refinance you with great terms a month ago? And for the 5 months before that, I would have said, yeah, you can build and we can refinance you and have great rates and great terms. And then, less than a month ago, that lender pulled the plug on the offering. So I'm like, oh man, so it's kind of tough. So I'm going to share with you as of right now what we have today. Non-converted, 20% down, 80 LTV for refis, rate and term, 75% cash out. Again, non-converted co-living properties. So my recommendation is if you buy a house, you rehab it to its highest comps, then you refinance, and then you convert it to pad split or co-living. In that way, you can get access to the highest quality products for terms and LTV. If if it's already converted, you're like, oh man, which happens. Sometimes you're either buying properties converted or you already rehabbed it to a fully converted property and you're already cash flowing. Situations like that, we now have to go 25% down. So you lose 5% on your down payment, or you go 75% rate and term, again, losing 5%, or you're capped at 65 to 70% on a cash out refi. Uh, I mean, we can probably go 75% on cash out refi, but the interest rate becomes like 9.5% with one of the co-living lenders we have. So it's only if we're really, really trying to solve a problem do I go to like the absolute extreme of worst case scenario, which usually just means that somebody's about to get foreclosed on and we have to, solve it a certain way. So preference as of today is rehab to highest comp, refinance vacant, finish your conversion, rent it out. So that is the current recommendation. But that could change. Again, I'm always looking for new lenders. And so a month ago, when I did the same presentation, I said, it's a risk, but you could build, convert, and then refinance after the conversion. And it would be the similar terms. Any questions so far on these two? Elizabeth or Leslie, any questions from you guys? Ronnie or Carson? I know Leslie, does anything here? I know we might have had build a closet. Nice. Well, there's no already. It's best to buy an IKEA wardrobe. All good so far. Okay, cool. But that's not all. So this is the one where like if you do make an income, if you do have a bank statement or you do get deposits, even if you have a 1099 income, if you have a business, we can still go 15% down and close in an LLC that does not report to personal credit. We don't ask you where the cash to close came from as long as it's inside of your LLC and you use that money to close. You can buy with multiple members in the entity and you only need one borrower to pull credit for. So that's helpful if somebody else has bad credit, you have good credit, but they have money. Partnership, do deals. So financing helps solve problems. I don't want people to feel limited in terms of like, oh, I can't buy because of this problem. And if it has to do with financing, I want to be able to help solve that. Let's talk about why people get DSCR loans. You close with less paperwork, so we don't ask you for W-2s, no tax returns. We can close in an entity like an LLC. High debts, the high debts don't matter as long as your credit score is still above 680. Once you get below 680, then your LTVs change. I mean, even at 680, your interest rate's going to be a little higher. But yeah, once you go below 680, it gets more difficult. Down below 650, even more difficult. Self-employed partnerships, entrepreneurs, perfect for DSCR loans. You can buy multifamily, duplex, fourplex, fiveplex, and we're using the income of the property to qualify. It's a lot more flexibility on the property types. So we can buy short-term rentals, Airbnbs. We can buy using Airbnb income. We can buy co-living properties, like I mentioned, mixed use properties, mixed uses. Like right now, we're working on one where there's 4 units on the top floor and there's a restaurant on the bottom floor. That's a mixed use property. We can scale. It doesn't matter if you buy 5, 10, 15, 20 of these or more, you can still use DSCR loans forever. And we can support foreign nationals. So Dylan, this is good for you too. If you're ever working with a foreign national, no I-10, no credit score, we can still do loans for them. Their terms are going to change a little bit, but yeah, we can help. And then, yeah, buy and refi co-living properties. The terms are also changing, right, in that case, but we can still do it. How to qualify? Literally the easiest thing in the world. So if you're ever going to work with Dylan to find something in Tampa, we just ask for a screenshot of your credit score, Experian, Credit Karma, any of that, and then a screenshot of your assets where the money's come, or just that you have the money. And it can even be your private money lender, private money partner's account. Screenshot it, cross out the account number. That's totally cool. And then front and back of ID. That's just to make sure that we spelled your name right when we give the pre-approval, right? Or you tell us what entity you want the pre-approval in. Then you qualify. We talked about the layout scenarios a little bit. So at the time of if you have the choice, the recommendation is to currently build the property out to its highest comparable. Just had a conversation with somebody today. They bought the property for 180. When they rehab it for, let's say, $50,000, it's going to appraise at 300. Perfect. You just do that to its highest comp. We do the vacant refinance. He wants to convert it to a 10 bedroom. And then I just gave him the suggestion here and just explained, if we want better rates and you want higher LTV, and then let's just do it that way first and then finish the conversion to the 10 bedroom later. I do get some investors that are more creative or thinking, yeah, but how could I do this and still get some of my framing up? In that case, what I'd suggest, like let's say the living room or some of the other rooms, you can build them with a double door opening and do not put the door in. So now it just looks like a double door opening, right? Which is normal. Like living rooms have double door openings. Dining rooms have double door openings. So there's no issue there. So if you're thinking, yeah, but I still want to, I might as well build this to the best that I can, you can make your dining room and living room have those double door openings without the doors, and they can still be called living rooms and dining rooms. That's a pretty cool little trick you can do. Um, leases, for the lease, if it's a pad split, we can still, we can use a pad split lease. If it's already co-living, like we can still use those, but they're not going to take, at the moment, they're not going to take the higher lease amount. So we still have to go off of the market rents. So just because you make a ton of co-living income doesn't mean that we can use it right now. Again, that can change. We had a, we had a lender, if the property, yeah, that's not true. So let's see. If the property has not been heavily converted, right now, we have four bedroom, which sounds, and I know most people are going to say like that's impossible. But let's say you had a regular house that was a four bedroom, two bath, and it was on pad split or something else. And we can use pad split income and we can use a higher number. It's the problem comes where if the property is heavily converted, then now you start to have issues, not so much with pad split or the lease, but it's about the layout. Most lenders right now are having issues with the layout. But if somebody really wants to do it, like we'll do a 9 bedroom, nine bath. We're looking at a 14 bed, 14 bath, single family home. We're gonna have to refinance a 10 bed, 10 bath. So, we still solve these problems, but you just may not get the best terms. And I think that that's the key point here. Um, I think we'll leave this right here. So any last questions? That's the last piece. If you don't have my info yet, you guys can scan this and you get access to my contact info, phone number, and email. And to either be connected with me or somebody on my team. But I really enjoy helping our investors figure out financing problems. So, Leslie, either we catch up right on this call if you want to chat, or we can catch up after this call. But I really want to help you out in solving the scenario that you're talking about as well and see what we can do for your refi. Let's see, I might have some questions in the chat.
Um, I think she just needs to look into Tampa, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe she just needs to
Let's
go to
see.
another market. I'm just kidding.
That's it, huh? 100%. So, Elizabeth, all right, later. Bye-bye. Oh, Carson. I don't think I know Carson. But yeah, oh, Carson, any questions? I think some of you are newer. I don't think I know Carson. I don't think I know John or Ronnie. Hey guys, any questions that you guys might have as you get started? Are you doing anything out in West Palm? So I do financing in 45 states. So when it comes to financing, yes, but maybe ask Dylan specifically if he's doing any deals out there. Dylan, are you?
No, I don't really go past Orlando actually, but let me take a look. Are you familiar with the Padsplit map? We can actually take a look and see what activity is even going on over there right now. I'll open it up.
Yeah, go for it. I would say, and then if you guys are on Instagram, I'm gonna drop my Instagram handle, IG at Fernando, and then I'll drop my email in here too. But I think that's it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll drop to the chat. Dylan, go ahead, share your screen. Let's check out.
Yeah, okay, one second here. Dun, 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 dun.
I
It,
think
it
we
looks
did
like a
well.
very it looks like a very new market. So give me one second. I'm just making sure I have everything on YouTube as well. Not oh, don't need to do that. So share the screen here, and then let's do. Okay, so I think you can see that. Um, this is the right place, right? West Palm Beach. I'm trying to zoom in. Where is West Palm Beach? Is it? It's down here. So this isn't even an active market right now on the radar. It looks like you can go down to Miami here. You can see. Actually, this is part of the Miami market, so it does go up here. Sorry about that. So you can see here, you have to have a host account in order to get into this portal basically and look through some of their data. But you can see how many searches Miami and surrounding like the metro has had and how many active units. They don't have many active units. They have under 400 right now. And you can look through each zip code. There's 20 there. Yeah, okay, good, good, good. And so while would it be could it be successful? Yes, I think very easily it could be successful, even though there's not much data here yet. But by comparison, you can go to I don't know. I know Orlando's. I don't want to cherry pick Tampa, but you know what? I'm going to cherry pick Tampa. Yeah, Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost 2,200 active units. We've been, I probably helped purchase half of them. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But Orlando, actually, this is Lakeland. Where's Orlando? This is Orlando. Sorry, I should know the map a little bit better. Orlando has about half, and Lakeland has. Yeah, actually, that's news to me too because I don't look through the map on Florida very often. I actually thought Orlando would be about right, about the same. But if you go to Jacksonville, everybody talks about Jacksonville. It's still not as much, but people lately I've heard have been unhappy. Yeah, yeah. And then you go up to, and I think this data is pretty up to date. I mean, it's coming directly from Padsplit, so I would assume they have some sort of automated way to put that all together. Okay, they have way more than 6,000 now. This is where it all started, and they have about they're approaching 9,000. So, is there room to grow? Certainly in Tampa, or Atlanta is very big. I would say it's much larger. I don't know how it compares to like how would you compare Atlanta size wise or population or business wise or whatever to some of the Florida metros. I don't know all those data points, but I think Tampa's large enough that there's still plenty of room to grow. So, yep, I'll stop the share here.
Not a lender, I'm a broker. And depending on the scenario, I connect people through. I am probably in the beginning of next year. I'm gonna get my own warehouse line to be able to fund deals. And so I'll be like a mini lender. So I'll be able to fund deals and I can sell those deals to the lender who would be doing it. But even then, yeah, I guess I can call myself a lender when I do that. But ultimately, I'm still, what's the word? I'm still responsible like to whoever buys the loan from me. even if I'm funding my own deals. But it does give me a little bit more control. Any reason that you ask, oh Carson? I think you're muted. Reach out to me though if you have more questions, and we
Okay,
can
thank
chat.
you. No, I was just curious, just understanding like what your main like business is.
Yeah, main thing is brokering these deals, helping to package the loans so they get funded, because it all is in the packaging of the loan. How do we need to construct the loan so it qualifies? Um, I think that's the problem solving part.
I see. Yeah, because the looks like the loads for pad splitting sometimes need to be a little bit more custom or modified, unconventional.
Right.
I see. Okay.
And even on the regular DSCR stuff, sometimes you have properties where the market rents come in low and you have to solve a DSCR coming in under one, but you need to get the LTV higher. So situations like that too. You have first time investors, first time home buyers. So there's different problems. You've got multiple investors partnering on a deal. How do you how do you navigate that? Is
I
there a
see.
reason to use?
Sounds good.
Yeah, reach out anytime though, if you have questions. I'm reading John's question here. Is there a reason to use Padsplit versus Facebook Marketplace? So John, probably in your first few properties, one, depending on what you do for work, if you do your first one or two properties and you want to do it on Facebook Marketplace yourself, um, it makes sense. If you have the time, you're going to self-manage. Maybe you live near where your properties are.
I think John, sorry just to cut you off here. I think John actually wants to house hack one of these potentially. So that might be more context to his question too.
Yeah. So yeah, if you house hack, it's not scalable. I'll say that, right? It's very hard to scale that model. But if you're just doing one, you're house hacking, you don't need PadSplit. PadSplit's there to solve a problem as well. So the main problem PadSplit solves, there's two. One is marketing. So some people like myself, I'm building a business, I have a family, all this other things. I don't want to spend my time marketing my properties, so I pay PadSplit those fees. That's number one. Number two is scale. And at scale, how do you manage the collections of your rents and then the management of each individual room and the codes and sharing all that stuff with everybody and having a member rating system so you can know when people are good or not good. And so there are those pieces that add value to me as a host at a later scale. So those are the two main problems they solve, right? Marketing, getting people on the platform, and then managing the people on the platform. But if it's just one or two properties and you're nearby, or maybe this you want to make this your own business, yeah, you just solve those problems on your own. I think people do that too. They have WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups for their tenants. But yeah, John, I think you can do that. You don't necessarily need pad split if that's the case. All right. I think this is it. Thank you everybody for coming. Leslie, it was nice seeing you on here. John, Ronnie,
Thank you,
sweet.
everyone. Yeah.
Thanks everybody. Oh, Carson.
Thank you.
Hopefully we get to talk too. Yeah, follow if you guys aren't on Instagram or if you are on Instagram, reach out. I'm probably the most active on there. Yeah, at it's Fernando Corona. I'd love to get connected with you guys on there too.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Cool.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Yep.
Thanks,
Take
Dylan.
care. All right.